Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 682nd edition of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. Tonight, special edition show as we'll talk about Major League Soccer discussing switching their schedule to the international calendar and what else can it do for our leagues here in the United States. Before we even get into it, let's go ahead and talk about our sponsor tonight. And before I even get to our sponsor, I have to do this. There we go. Much better. And here we go. Let me tell you about this segment sponsor, the show sponsor tonight's Dino Luzzi Energy Drink. When I need that extra kick to power through match analysis and late night transfer rumors, there's only one drink that delivers an authentic Italian energy. Dino Luzzi, created in Italy with the same passion I bring to this show, because real energy comes from real ingredients, just like real soccer talk comes from real insiders. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Our guests tonight will be from Beyond the 90. Kartik Krishnaiyer will be joining us very soon. But joining me from the Hammer Down podcast is Kaylor Hodges, who of course covers Birmingham Legion. Kaylor, welcome to the show. How are you tonight, sir?
Always good to sit down and talk to you, of course. I'm doing well.
That's great, and that's wonderful to see. You know, I gotta tell you, Kaylor, this is probably a very monumental moment for the game in this country, because Major League Soccer, as we all know, the Division I league for the game in this country, wants or is actually having discussions within their board of governors or the owners that it's time to make a move to switching the schedule from the way they're doing it now, transferring to the international calendar, where they're going to start in August and end sometime in May or June. And for once, maybe this is the light at the end of the tunnel that all of us are hoping for, that this move can finally be put in the right direction for the game in this country.
Yeah, I am so heavily pro European schedule. And hopefully I'm back. My microphone unplugged. It went away for a second. But
That's okay.
I am insanely pro schedule change. And I was on the fence about it until the USL Super League did it. And they did this thing that people always seem to forget that can happen, which is a break during the cold months. And you can do that. You can take a break in the cold months and not play in those insanely dangerous conditions, while also avoiding playing in Orlando and Miami and Houston and Dallas and LA in, August and July. You can avoid the insane heat, and you can also get rid of the insane cold. And I'm sure we can talk about all the pros and the cons and all that stuff. But I'm just going to go ahead and call out both MLS and USL executives. The reason why they're going to say no is not for weather merit. They are afraid of big, bad NFL. They are afraid of the big, bad NFL, because if we go to the European calendar, then we're going to have to compete with the NFL. Guess what? You're already competing with the NFL. You're already doing it. By the time you get to the most important part of your season, the finals, what is it? It's December, NFL December, when the games actually start to matter and people don't care about your league anymore. They're not going to see the forest through the trees, and they're going to say, well, we're afraid of the NFL, when you're already losing your viewership to it.
Absolutely. I mean, we all have to understand this. They're competing no matter what, whether it be the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, even Major League Baseball. It does not matter what they do or who they go against. I mean, even you have to admit, Kaylor, college football, college basketball, that's always going to be competing against all the major North American sports leagues, because it doesn't matter what goes on. Look, Europe is lucky enough that they only have football, soccer to worry about. Sure, there's European hockey, but I don't think it's as big as what goes on here. But still, though, the point is, and you're correct, if you're going to have this monumental change and you take a break sometime around maybe halfway through December, you start a break, then you don't have to worry about competing against the NFL when it's the most important time. I mean, sure, the end of the regular season, the start of the playoffs, and then the Super Bowl, you clear those hurdles. Without a doubt, the rest of the season will have all their eyes on MLS.
Can I tell you the USL Super League schedule this year?
Yes, go ahead.
August 23rd is when they start. That is, we're already playing soccer in MLS during that time. So you're not getting any new heat. August 23rd. Their last game is December 20th. Does that go a little bit late? Sure. Last year it was around December 7th, 17th. Guess what? The MLS finals last year ended on December 7th. So God forbid Minnesota host the final ever, or Colorado host the final ever, because it's on December 7th. Good luck. So they go all the way to December 20th, and then they start back on January 31st. Guess what? Your favorite club is already doing training camp in the middle of January. They're already there. And the best part about it, your final, what is the most important part of the season? Your final, right? The most important part of any season is when the champion is crowned. I think the only sport that has the argument is baseball, where opening day is a holiday. But is opening day in football the same as opening day in baseball? No, it's not. And so your final would be, if you follow the Super League calendar, would be the very first week of June. What are you competing with in June? Maybe some of the NBA finals. But be honest with me. Would you rather compete with the NBA finals or December NFL football or college football's conference championship or the beginning of NCAA football? Which would you rather compete with?
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think it's a smart move. And plus, at the same time, not just MLS that we have to look at, and like you've said already with USL, the women's league. I think it's also time for a championship and League One in USL to make this move
Yes.
too. And then, of course, when the first division league starts to come around after the World Cup is over next summer, this is a big challenge to have everything be aligned correctly. And we can finally say that we don't have to worry about watching our leagues performing during the international breaks. Now, obviously, this is still happening in MLS. I believe it's also happening in USL. You have our leagues playing when it should be the international team's time. That's why there's the international calendar, not just for the transfer windows, but to give our national teams that moment in the spotlight where, whether it's a friendly, whether it's a World Cup qualifier, that there's no interference at all, from our leagues when we want to take a break from the club season so we can watch the international games being played, so we can see what our players are able to do against these teams, whether it's from our own confederation or teams from other confederations outside of CONCACAF.
Yeah, I'm having to look something up real quick, but something else that I have been privy to, luckily through the USL show, is I've gotten to talk to a lot of clubs and a lot of owners and a lot of agents, especially. And it's hard to get players to come to the US because during their transfer window, they would have to come in the middle of a season. So there are players like, while I was looking up, Toby Sims played for Harrogate Town this year, and he put in a full season. He got through the entire season this year, which is over 40 matches. He played over 40 matches for Harrogate this year. And as soon as the season was over, is already playing for the Greenville Triumph, where he's already played 10 matches for them. So he has played almost 50, 60 matches. He is going to finish the season playing almost 70 matches in one calendar year. Players don't want to do that. When you're playing at the League Two level, you're not going to represent club and country unless you're playing for a smaller country. Why would you put your body through 70 plus matches if you're not playing for international? We would love to say that MLS is, oh yeah, absolutely. We would love to bolster MLS up. Tell me right now what Spanish, French, English international is going to come play in MLS, and how many of them would come after playing a full season to join in the middle of the season to go play international duty and then come right back with no break? They're already doing it, but they give even less of a break. And you're looking at teams and players who are refusing to come to our country because they want to limit their chance of injury on already a career that you're lucky if you make it to 30 on. Why would you put extra miles on your legs for something that you're not even guaranteed to have?
Exactly.
Without rest.
Yep, exactly. Joining us right now, of course, my colleague at Beyond the 90, formerly of World Soccer Talk, Kartik Krishnaiyer, now joining us tonight. Kartik, when you've heard the rumblings from the ownership group of MLS, all the owners, and we've heard the rumors too, at least 27 of the 30 owners in MLS wants to make this move to the international calendar. What did that mean for you?
Well, I've thought for years, guys, and great to be with you, Kayla and Daniel. I thought for years, if you hear all these agitators out there talking about promotion and relegation and reforming the system, if you don't shift the calendar, you can't do any of that. I've made that point for years. Even though I've been an advocate of promotion and relegation, I've said, look, it's one component of a larger program of things that probably need to happen in this country. The first would be aligning transfer windows. Even if you actually could stay on the same calendar if you tweaked it a little bit, if you align the windows. But, and as Kayla's saying, I think very adroitly, there's been this issue that we've had in the past of especially guys playing international tournaments in the summer, them joining after that. So that's I think that was the leading consideration, was about that. I also think, truthfully, even though I know this means more of the season coincides with college football and the NFL, the business end of the season, if you will, the playoffs do not. You're competing with the NBA, NHL. Okay, they have their followings, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same sort of in-market competition that you get in a lot of our core MLS markets, right? That you're competing with those sorts of sports. So I think that had something to do with it too, quite frankly. And I think there's been frustration that playoff ticket sales haven't been as high sometimes as regular season ticket sales with a lot of MLS clubs. I've been hearing that for years about that. They tried changing the playoff format to try and stimulate interest. It doesn't work. And the television ratings, well, now the streaming rate numbers have stunk for the MLS Cup playoffs. So some of MLS's best attended matches and most watched matches were in the spring, even though that's at the beginning of the season. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, you're good. I want to prove your point. Right? We're already doing the dumb stuff. The season this year for MLS started on February 22nd. They reported training camp in the middle of January. So what? Great. You're missing the Super Bowl. Awesome. Guess what? You're going to play through the entire year. And the only months that a European calendar and the already MLS calendar would not line up on, technically is July, and part of August, except we're already playing right now because we have the Leagues Cup. So everything that they're already doing is coinciding. The only difference is that the finals would now be when they have no competition. They would rather go head to head with the finals with the NFL, college football, college basketball, the things that are the major pools in this country. They would rather go head to head in business time when you want the most eyes on your product, and they're just not. They're afraid of the regular season fall off. When don't you want people watching when your product is supposed to be the best?
Yeah, exactly. And that was sort of the thinking when I worked in the NASL, Daniel. And you remember I came on your show to talk about Apertura, Clausura, and trying to flip the calendar, which the league, I left the league and they never got around to doing. But that there was also, especially for a lower division, so USL is going to have to think about this now that MLS is making this move. You get completely lost in the weeds if you're competing. Unfortunately, this is the reality. I'm not condoning it and saying, oh well, American football is better than baseball or basketball, but you just don't want to compete with it. That's and particularly here in the Southeast, the one I remember David Beckham's final game in Major League Soccer, the MLS Cup against Houston that year, was at the same time as the SEC championship game. Now, how can you schedule that way? Seriously,
you can't.
Yeah, absolutely, gentlemen. No, you can't. You really cannot. And, that's the one thing that's heartbreaking. It's like, sure, you have the diehards that will go to these games, but the point is you want to have those that you want to turn into diehards to fall in love with this sport and this league. But the problem is this now is that they don't want to understand that the American soccer fan is a lot smarter than they are. Because this is the reality of the situation too, guys, is this. Okay, you have the Premier League starting in August. You also have Bundesliga starting in August, Serie A starting in August. Late August will be La Liga because they always start maybe a week or two later than England does. But still, though, the month of August starts all these leagues. And doesn't it make sense when you have everything going for you from like 7 a.m. here on the East Coast all the way through till maybe 2 a.m. on the East Coast, like after LA Galaxy versus whoever is done, or LAFC, whoever is done, Orange County SC, whoever is done, Spokane Velocity, whoever is done, because as we all agree, this is going to have to be big changes across the entire board of American soccer. Because if we can be aligning ourselves, not just the little issues and the little, the little mechanisms of what works, what's been working for such a long period of time in the rest of the world, except for here, I mean, it's really a no-brainer, isn't it, Taylor?
Yeah, and I'm trying to pull up one other thing really fast. Let's act like they got their crap together and it's happening this year, right? We're doing it. Again, I'm using the USL Super League as the example because they are on the European calendar. They are our example right now. The final was on June 14th. Do you know what would happen in a couple weeks after that? The U.S. hosting the World Cup. A few weeks after MLS is big, look at us. Look at us. Look at our final. We just had an awesome product. Look at it. How amazing this is. We just had put on this product. And guess what? In 2 weeks, we're hosting the World Cup. And guess what? When the World Cup final happens in the United States, what's happening in 3 weeks? The start of the MLS season. Talk about a better lead-in. You're not going to get the same lead-in. Oh, look, it's going to be we're stopping the season in the middle of the year. And, oh, look, the World Cup's happening. I can't wait to go watch my 14th place favorite MLS team not compete for the playoffs.
Yep.
Right? At the very least, to start the season, the teams and fans of people who are in markets they can at least tell themselves that we have a chance.
Let me follow up on Kaler's point on the USL Super League, because this is not something I realized until USL Super League launched this year and played. And obviously, Daniels, Beyond the 90 cover two teams closely. There's going to be a third this year with Jacksonville. Sporting Jacks was going to go up for their friendly on Sunday, and unfortunately that's been scrubbed against Wrexham, but I'll be up for their opener on the 23rd against DC Power. Kaler, this is interesting. I did not realize until talking to the Tampa Bay Sun and to Fort Lauderdale United both that playing on this calendar actually helped them with youth soccer.
Yes.
Their academy teams being aligned with the calendar, and then getting youth soccer girls teams to buy tickets. That's not something I had even thought about in my advocacy for calendar change, but it's another kind of collateral benefit of it. And that's something I think will help on the men's side too.
Yeah. And one thing I want to throw out there, because I do need to go somewhat soon, people are going to throw out it's cold in Minnesota. It's cold in Minnesota. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Why not steal a book out of Major League Baseball? They have been doing schedules longer than any other sport. They have been going since before the 1900s on scheduling. They got it. Do you know what they do? They take the Chicago Cubs and the Minnesota Twins and the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox and the whoever, and they say, go down south for a little while, for 2 weeks. And do you know what you get in the middle of the season, in the middle of the summer? You get to go home when it's cooler outside than it is in Tampa, than it is in Miami. Miami has a retractable roof, but follow me here, right? You don't have to go to those places when it's 1 billion degrees. Congratulations, Minnesota United. You don't have to play when it's 10 degrees outside, although it's kind of a competitive advantage, and maybe they want that. But you don't have to go out there. What you can do is we'll start you down in Miami, and then you'll go down to Houston, and they'll come up to you when it's cooler. And no one's going to notice. Everybody's going to say, well, that's not fair. We want to have our legs and we want to have our first games at home. Congratulations. Your first games are at home. No one came because it's 10 degrees. Cool. Just go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Minnesota, because their fans, going back 10 years, Daniel knows this, back when I was working at NASL, were the most vocal in opposition to this. And I would tell them exactly what you just said, Kaler. March and April, you can play in Florida, you can play in Arizona, you can play in Texas, wherever. And then summer, you have a block of games quite frankly, in the Southeast, it's raining every day. It's really hot. You don't want to play outdoors in Atlanta or in Charlotte in the summer. Honestly, it's awful. Or even DC. DC United's had this problem since the beginning of MLS, since '96, with a lot of thunderstorms, a lot of heat and humidity. FC Dallas has it also, and then obviously now Orlando, Miami, Atlanta, etc. So, and in NASL, we have the problem with Fort Lauderdale and Tampa Bay every year with thunderstorms and postponements. So the weather thing is an issue in the Southeast playing through the summer also, which the Minnesota fans in particular, I don't want to pick on one fan base, but they seem to be the most vocal always about this. They
are the coldest fan base. They have to deal with the most cold. So it makes sense.
True. Yeah. It's fair. That's fair.
But we also don't talk about like the Miami side of this, where it is dangerously hot. Again, I'm a USL guy. We'll go back to USL. Phoenix can't kick off until 8, 9 o'clock at night, or else people will die. Las Vegas, granted, the lights are a bit of a used to be. They're more serious now, but they used to be a circus show as much as a football team. So they started a match at midnight. Not a joke. Look it up. They played at midnight, partially for publicity, partially because people would die. Would you rather go play at midnight because it's too hot and too dangerous to play, or would you rather be a little bit chilly?
So let's talk specifically about Miami this year, Miami FC, because they're playing on the turf at FIU, and they have an old team, a team got a lot of guys from Argentina. I'm already hearing rumblings. I don't work for the club anymore. I just want to make that clear. Obviously have worked for them in the past, but I'm still kind of in the family. I'm hearing rumblings from Ricardo Silva's people that the roster, you can't construct a roster like this for the summer months in South Florida because they're not athletic enough. They're too old. So the only way we can solve it is if next season we have a similar club, we need to kick games off at 9:00 locally rather than 7. It is that hot and humid in the South in this time of year.
Yep. No, it's very true. I mean, I'm living down in here in South Florida myself now, so I can definitely agree with what Kartik is saying there. And even when I was living back in New York, New Jersey, I mean, the summertime when it gets humid and sticky, forget it. I mean, and you have to hope and pray you don't get a lot of thunderstorms. And if you do, you're going to get rainouts. I mean, even though Sports Illustrated Stadium, formerly known as Red Bull Arena, it does drain very nicely and there's no issues. Still, though, you're still going to get one of those waterlogged games. Forget about that. At the old RFK Stadium at DC United, there's at least 6 puddles. And they're not the small ones. They're talking about big freaking puddles. And then, they build Audi Field. But then I was there to cover the Red Bulls road game in DC. And as I'm halfway walking to Audi Field, the deluge broke. And I was completely drenched from head to toe. Even though I got into the stadium, I was able to thankfully dry off and everything. But there was puddles again on the field, and it's a brand new stadium. I couldn't believe what I saw. And then was it a wall of water going down from the second deck down to the walkway of the ground level, which was crazy.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was crazy.
Stadium has always had these problems, and so even when the Rowdies Indy game, I think it was a month. Well, they just played in Indy last week, but about a month and a half ago, a midweek game got postponed, and they ended up kicking off around 9:30. But part of the reason they couldn't kick off once the rain cleared was the drainage was so poor at Al Lang. And that's a whole other issue, right? They had a hurricane last year. They had stadium damage. The Rowdies at the end of season last season playing at IMG and started this season first 5 matches on the road. But the drainage is a big concern. And maybe this is my ignorance. I don't know how the ice and snow necessarily affects the pitches in Minnesota and places like that. The places we're talking about, Foxborough, but I've seen such horrible problems with the pitches in the Southeast because of drainage that I think it's also a safety concern in many cases.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
no,
fellas.
that's very true. Yeah,
I got to roll. I got to
Sure.
go.
Oh, good, Kaylor.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Kaylor, and have a good night. And I'll talk to you soon again. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kaylor.
Thank you. And once again, that's Kaylor Hodges from Hammering Down Podcast, covering Birmingham Legion of USL Championship, back here with Kartik Krishnaiyer, of course, from Beyond the 90, my colleague as well from Beyond the 90. I know I wrote about this a long time ago, Kartik. Once there was the rumblings of the schedule changing happening, this also helps with competition outside of MLS, obviously. We're talking about, of course, for you and myself, the U.S. Open Cup, and at the same time, CONCACAF Champions Cup. I mean, that setup can be a lot better, more fluid, and we can finally have the Open Cup starting the first 2 to 3 rounds, possibly in the first half of the brand new season. We could have rounds 1 and 2, maybe November, December, if it's possible, because then you go to round 3 can start in February and then March, and then you just separate the times, and shouldn't say the times, but you have better separation of the rounds that fit the Open Cup properly, like what goes on with the FA Cup.
Yeah, we could do that, and then we would have to adjust qualifying accordingly. But what many people don't realize is that Open Cup qualifying for the next year starts even before the final now, the way it's structured. So regional qualifying starts in September. But I think in terms of what we could do with the cup, the cup could reach its full potential. It'll help MLS teams, or if USL teams end up in US Open Cup or CONCACAF Champions Cup. Obviously, Sacramento was really close a few years ago, so it will help those teams if they shift the calendar. My disappointment, and Kaylor is no longer with us, but he may share it. By the way, Kaylor, colleague of mine at Southeast Soccer Report. So I'm colleagues with both of you guys. I mean, obviously, Beyond the 90 is the site I founded, but still I contribute to Southeast Soccer Report, where Kaylor covers Birmingham Legion also. So, but my disappointment is that Jake Edwards talked years ago about flipping the USL calendar. 2018, 2019, he was talking very actively about this. We're now in 2025. USL has taken no step towards that, whereas MLS is flipping first, which I did not expect. Now,
No, me neither.
USL did USL Super League. I think it's gone great. I'm really excited about Sporting Jacks. That's that. I've never seen a launch of a club that's been this good. Quite honestly, at the women's level. So I'm excited about that, and they're telling me, as has Tampa Bay and Fort Lauderdale, being on this calendar is better for them because of youth soccer as well, which is something I had not thought about. And that's something that maybe for the MLS Academy teams is better also. And in terms of maybe calling guys up, if you flip Next Pro to that calendar, playing them through Next Pro, although I have to say that the Next Pro issue is live. I saw Third Degree the other day had a piece on why FC Dallas's academy has fallen off, and one of the key points they made is this is a difference between having our academy team playing USL and playing Next Pro. Next Pro, the level's just not high enough to develop guys quickly enough. So that's why we need USL to follow along, because if MLS is going to loan those guys down into USL, Kaylor's team Birmingham has taken a bunch of guys on loan the last few years from MLS teams because of Tommy Sohn's gone now, but Tommy Sohn's relationships and Jay Heap's relationships in MLS. They're not going to be able to do that in the future if they play on this misaligned calendar. MLS is just going to say, hey, we're going to loan our guys down into Next Pro. Maybe we're going to loan our guys to other leagues. But USL, we're not going to loan our players to you.
No, and I think that's the one thing I think USL needs to understand is, look, if MLS is going to make this move, and already, as we've already said here on the show, through the rumor mill, social media, 27 of the 30 owners are in favor of making this move.
Yeah.
And they're still discussing it. And let me just say this, and I know some people are saying, well, do it now. Fine, let's do it now. But if it doesn't go the way it should go, everything falls apart. And, look, I don't want this to fall apart at all. We can't have this fall apart, because with everyone complaining, crying, whining, I'll say it, bitching, that, we got to go to ProRel now. It's so simple to say it, but, there's other mechanisms that we must move ourselves into before we allow promotion relegation to come into play. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying I've changed my mind on the subject. I'm not saying that at all.
But you have to do this first, though. You have to
exactly. Exactly.
And actually, to Eric Winalda's credit, I mean, he railed about ProRel when he was running for USSF president. I remember one day on the phone with me, Eric basically said to me, yeah, we can't do this unless the calendar shifts. He didn't want to make that a public part of his platform because not his fault. Everybody was so scared of it in those days. But he did tell me that privately. He said, yeah, I know. We would have to go August to May if we're going to do ProRel properly.
Exactly. That's the whole point. And the other thing is this, and I've also said this as well, and I'm not going to try and go, off the beaten path here, but, myself personally, fan of this league, covering this league, and, wanting the success, not just of MLS, but I want success up and down across the board with everything and anything in American soccer. Okay. But, the silly roster rules of MLS has to go as well.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these stupid things, that all these acronyms are, in my opinion, it's not just slowing the game down, it's ruining the game. Because then now you saw the stupid jostling between the Vancouver Whitecaps and FC Cincinnati over Thomas Mueller, who just left Bayern Munich, who did not want to go to Cincinnati, wanted to go to Vancouver, but because Cincinnati had his discovery player rights, which that's still a bunch of hooey, in my opinion. It's ugh. they had to force Vancouver to make a financial commitment or a financial trade to give Cincinnati a certain amount of money so that they could have his rights. Vancouver, and it's just ridiculous. But other than that, that's going off the beaten path just a tiny
Does
bit.
LAFC have Suns rights, or are they having to trade for him?
No, they got him.
Oh, okay.
They got him. They didn't have to trade for Son's rights. No, he's going to go straight to LAFC, and he'll be the hero of Koreatown, just like just like the Japanese players on the Galaxy are heroes as well in LA, in the Japanese market. So, I mean, look, this is what it is, unfortunately. But other than that, I mean, obviously, it's the simplest of things. You change your calendar, your competition calendar for the on season, and everything will be following suit sooner rather than later. Now, look, the mechanisms will still be fighting for a promotion relegation to come in. But once again, as I've said to you also, it's not just promotion relegation that has to come in. Is where I stand with stadiums. There must be more soccer stadiums to be built up and down across the board in all the leagues. I want to be out of NFL stadiums. I want to be out of baseball stadiums, minor league baseball stadiums, facilities that may be for soccer, but the clubs don't own that facility, like Orange County SC in USL Championship. They don't own their stadium. It belongs to the township of Irvine. So for them to build their own stadium, I hope it's going to come to fruition. But same thing with the Rowdies. Even though they have a good setup right now with Al Lang Stadium in St. Petersburg, the truth is they got to get out of there. Or St. Petersburg, the town of St. Petersburg, the government, it's time to demolish that outfield wall and actually put in a permanent stand, not the temporary ones that are out there. Put in a permanent stand.
They've done the best job they can. I'll be back up there on the 16th, so whatever, 10 days from now, for their home game against Phoenix. They have done the best they can with that stadium, but it's just we're at a point in the maturation of the game in this country that that sort of thing is not acceptable anymore. You've got to knock down that structure and build proper soccer stands, or you've got to cross the bay and go to Tampa. Unfortunately, so it's up to St. Petersburg to make this decision. Now, if they want to lose the team to Tampa, which we know they probably don't, then they've got to do this. The team is being sold, as are the Rays. We have a lot of situations like that around USL and around MLS. Now, we can start with MLS: Foxborough, Atlanta, Seattle. Is there another
one?
Charlotte. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
I don't know how this is acceptable. The Seattle situation has never been acceptable. The Seattle fans are worse than the Minnesota fans, actually. They get very defensive, angry if you say anything about their club or about their setup. Unlike the Portland fans, I know a lot of people group Portland and Seattle together. Portland, you make critiques about Merritt Paulson and the organization. You make critiques about the club. They'll listen. They'll say, okay, maybe we disagree with you, or hey, maybe you have a good point. But Seattle, they get very defensive with that stadium. That stadium is not acceptable.
No, it's not. And listen, look, I give them credit for having all those home games at Lumen Field. Obviously, they share it with the Seahawks, the primary tenants, and I'm happy about that. Look, it's really simple. Find a piece of land that is ready to go, that is ready to be built. Just go ahead and build the darn thing. You can still make it 30,000, 40,000 because they get so many dedicated Seattle fans that go to those games at Lumen Field. It's so simple to just build that sizable of a stadium. You can make it 30,000.
I know Merritt Paulson's an easy guy to beat up on. I have plenty of critiques of him, but and quite frankly, don't really like him. But that aside, he knew they had to get rid of the baseball configuration. He knew they had to make that a soccer-first stadium.
That's
Seattle,
right.
The big rival, has given excuses for 15 years, more than 15 years about this.
Yeah, exactly. And I also give credit to Merritt Paulson because he knew he had to make adjustments. And what did he do? They added those extra seats now. I think it's like a double deck, a triple deck now on the opposite side of the field along the main street over there. I mean, that is just fantastic. I mean, I'll admit I didn't think they had enough room to do it, but I was wrong. And look what they did. It was just unbelievable. And I mean, it just fits in perfectly that stadium, Providence Park. It just fits perfectly for the Timbers and for the city to have soccer just exploding over there, like
So,
it always has been.
so as USL makes their Division One push, my understanding is they are not going to let teams in without a stadium plan, which is very good.
Exactly.
And so this puts the clubs that don't have a stadium. I know Indy is a complicated situation. They've been trying. So I'm not going to bash that ownership.
No.
But some of the other ones who might think that they can jump to Division One at this point with the facilities they have might have another thing coming. Orange County is a great example. I don't think they're going to be in USL D1.
No.
I think Sacramento certainly will be. Louisville certainly will be. Indy, they'll have to figure something out. But we might have a whole host of other teams, new teams, teams building purpose-built facilities, because this is what USL wants to see. MLS was great about it for years, and then suddenly they made an exception for Atlanta. Then they made an exception for Charlotte. So,
yep. Exactly.
And San Diego. I forgot about San Diego.
Yeah.
What is that?
I know. Going to Snapdragon at the college, because who's at Snapdragon right now? San Diego Wave?
Yeah.
Because it fits there. I think San Diego really needs a downtown stadium. And I know the Loyal, before they were forced to dissolve themselves, probably wanted to build a stadium. But unfortunately, once the San Diego FC came into MLS, they knew they weren't going to be able to compete. So what was the point?
Oh, and I forgot we have the Chicago. Well, I guess MLS is worse than I thought. I mean, they have as many problems as USL. I forgot about the Chicago situation also.
But Mansueto is building the new stadium on the north side. On the other side of the town, along the river, they actually got the plot of land, which is big enough to actually put another stadium in there if the White Sox are going to leave the south side and go over there to the new area. But share the land with the Fire. But the Fire have already put down designs, 3D effects. They already got the stadium renderings down, ready to go, and it just looks incredible, Kartik. It really does. It looks incredible.
So in Jacksonville, they're looking at building a 15,000 seat stadium. They're down. My understanding is they're down to really two places they're looking at. Obviously, they're launching at UNF at Hodges Stadium on the 23rd, but they'll have a men's team and a women's team playing in that stadium, Sporting Jacksonville. So that's a club to look at as a model for kind of a purpose-built stadium in USL, in addition to what's going on in Sacramento and some of the other ones. Spokane's a great stadium. They opened with the facility. That's what you have. That's kind of what you have to do now. Rhode Island took a year at Bryant College, but now their facility looks good. I mean, I don't know why the Revolution can't build something like that in Boston.
Boston politics, my friend. Boston.
So they
politics.
were never willing to go to Providence, I guess, because Rhode Island FC now has taken Providence. But for years that was open. Maybe New England could because Foxborough is actually, I think, slightly closer to Providence than it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. So you got to take the MBTA to get to Foxborough. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I remember when my past life as a front office person booking teams to play the Revolution on travel, you always flew them to Providence. You didn't fly them to Boston.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, just Logan is a mess anyway, so that's probably why. Also, you fly them to Providence.
Exactly. But I had on last night. I had Tommy Quinlan on. He's the radio voice for Rhode Island FC. That they are going to expand the stadium for USL First Division. They're going to put it, I think, in the ends.
Yeah, I forgot to mention them. They'll definitely be in it. What a club!
I know. Amazing.
Amazing the way they launched. Brett Johnson is one of the model owners, I think, in American soccer. I hope, I mean, it's only year two, but the momentum they have, I would actually be kind of worried if I'm a Revolution, if I was involved with Bob Kraft and the Revolution, because I know they're in MLS and Rhode Island FC's in USL, but I just feel like Rhode Island FC's taken some of their fans already because of it's just a better atmosphere. It's a better vibe.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. But one thing is for sure, though. Look, I saw there was a dual press conference, you might say, one from the Boston mayor and then one from the Revolution themselves. Look, I think it's going to be more patience, and hopefully that there will be something positive happening here. Hopefully that both Boston and the town of Everett, which is just north of the river of where they want to build the stadium. Apparently there's a plot of land that is owned by Boston. That's where they want to build the stadium. It's like mostly in Everett, but like a section of it is a part of Boston. You know how it's funny. It just to let you,
Like a plot.
I didn't know this as, someone from New York. I never knew this, but apparently where the Harlem River bends into Spuyten Duyvil, then flows into the Hudson River. When you cross this bridge and it's Broadway, the northern end of Manhattan, Broadway, goes into the Bronx. Now, I thought it automatically becomes the Bronx, but apparently no. Marble Hill is actually still a section of Manhattan.
So there's a section of Manhattan north of the Harlem River.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that.
Where? Yeah, I didn't know this either. I didn't know this either until I saw it on a Facebook group on the Bronx. So listen. So this is what it is. When the Harlem River bends, okay? When it bends.
This is on Henry Hudson Parkway, or what is this? What road?
No. This is like east of the Henry Hudson Parkway.
Okay.
This is like you have here's the Bronx part.
Yeah.
Here's the Deegan, and then you have Manhattan here, and in between's the Harlem River. Okay.
Yeah.
When it bends, it's still the Bronx, but then when it gets to where the #1 elevated subway station is, okay, when you cross over the bridge that goes over the creek, which goes into Spuyten Duyvil.
Yes.
Marble Hill, that small chunk just on the other side of the bend of the river, that's still Manhattan.
Oh, I thought that
for a short bit. It's like a small section of Manhattan, Marble Hill, and then the rest is the Bronx.
Like an exclave in the Bronx. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not.
And I never knew that. I thought once you crossed over the bridge on Broadway, because Broadway continues into the Bronx and it goes all the way up into Albany. But that little section of Marble Hill, just a little to the left, and maybe a little bit also, that's a little bit of Manhattan in the Bronx.
And take the major Deegan to the throughway and go to
exactly.
Go to Montreal. I mean, I was just in Montreal.
Exactly. But that's all Bronx over there. But yeah, like when you're done here tonight, go to the map and I'll show it to you. But no, I never knew this, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" All this time, I had no idea. I mean, it's just crazy stuff.
Well, Manhattan had wanted New York City FC. They potentially could have done something on that side.
I know. I know. But they're going to Queens, so they're building it right there behind
the right place for them to be, because I think the thing, shameless plug here, did a long interview with Eric Stover the other day. Your friend and my friend. Will admit I'm not totally impartial when I interview Eric. I think so highly of him. But one of the things we talked about was the Cosmos as a Long Island / New York team didn't work the way, at least from my perspective, and I sense from Eric's perspective too, as well as they work as a Jersey team. And so now the Cosmos once again are properly going to be a Jersey team, which I embrace. But that means people on Long Island and in Queens need a team. And so NYCFC fits that. And the people in the boroughs, the borough boys, all of them can support that club because they're now the New York team. The Cosmos are back where I think the Cosmos should be. I think that this is the right move to New Jersey. It's not a move that the previous ownership of Seamus O'Brien and those guys would have embraced. They were fixated on New York. But I'm really, and I know Daniel, you're excited about it too. The Cosmos are back next year, and they're going to be back. I think, and they're the Cosmos now. They're not the New York.
Yes. Nope. Just the Cosmos, like I remember it. Just like how I remembered it at Giant Stadium. Yeah. We won't see Bugs Bunny running around with a big carrot in his hand holding a soccer ball, but but no, though. Look, they're back in New Jersey. They're going to be at Patterson, and the Hinchcliffe Stadium restoration group that they brought it back the way I didn't think they were going to bring it back. I thought it was too dilapidated, but they were able to find a way to make it look really sparkling nice. I know they're going to share it with a independent minor league baseball team called the New Jersey Jackals, but we'll see what happens. And what are you going to do? This is what it is now, and it's just going to be should be really a lot of fun, and we'll see what happens moving forward. But anyway, back to this. once again, it's just the calendar change is so important to make everything work, because like I've said to you many, many times, one thing to make everything go right, meaning promotion relegation, cannot happen unless certain things join in, certain mechanisms. And this is one of those mechanisms I'm talking about, that Ronaldo talked about, that even you're going to talk about, and that is the calendar change. We have to change the calendar, the on-season competition calendar, to make everything feel better. And as I've said to you as well, when Kayla was on with us, could you imagine you have a full day of soccer because of the technology we have today, all the streaming services, even the channels, ESPN, ESPN Plus, Peacock, NBC, CBS Sports, CBS Sports Network, Paramount Plus, now MLS and Apple, USL with CBS and ESPN streaming as well. I mean,
NWSL on Ion.
NWSL included. Yep. Even the women's leagues are going to have to join. Even NWSL has to join with USL Super League and even USL Women, the W League and the USL has to also make that change too. Everything has to come together properly, and then we can all be on the same page.
Yeah, I have a bone to pick with USL HQ about the W League being still a summer league, and then you've got Super League on either side of it. I have heard from both sides of that divide that there is a problem with them not playing at the same time. I understand USLW is very dependent on college players, but there's two things. One, the clubs in USL Super League that have now put teams in the W League don't want their players. They need their players in camp at a certain time, and the W League is overlapping with that in their closed season. And then the other thing is that the college players are being called back. This is going to be another big thing, Daniel. Another reason why the calendar's got to shift. The dependence on college players with the summer leagues is going to end soon, because college programs are calling their kids, whether it's on the boys or the men's side or the women's side, back to school earlier and earlier for camp and for workouts and that sort of stuff. So the business model of USL League 2 and of the USLW League are going to go down the tubes. I think the League for Clubs has done a very good job. Dennis Crowley, Sonny D'Alessandro, and Eric Housley have realized they're going to have to pivot. So they're doing longer season. They're doing some interesting things. Michael Hitchcock and I have talked about this as well, that his clubs are now becoming less college player centric, right? They're still in college towns, right? Annapolis is a college town. Lubbock is a college town. Boone, North Carolina, college town. But those clubs, I think, eventually are going to have to be on the same calendar. And then in terms of what MLS does with MLS Next Pro, they're going to have to ship that as well. Now,
yeah.
I hate to bring this point up, but look, the growth is in the Southeast. So Minnesota, Chicago, who else do we have up there? Toronto. They're going to have to the places with extreme weather in MLS are Montreal, who I'm not sure the future of that club, quite frankly. And I was just there, and I'm not positive that club's going to be in MLS, or if they'll be in that market, I should say. Toronto. So we have Toronto, Chicago, Minnesota, basically. Boston, it's manageable. New York, it's manageable. Philly, it's manageable. You can work around it. So we'll just have to figure out an accommodation for those clubs. Minnesota will have to play. We did this in the NASL when we had Edmonton in the league. Edmonton has much more extreme weather than anywhere in North America. We had Edmonton play Tampa Bay, Fort Lauderdale, Puerto Rico, Carolina, San Antonio. They would open with 5 or 6 away matches. Then they would have a bunch of games at home during the summer. And then they would finish on the road as well. So that's what will have to happen with Minnesota. The weather, obviously, Vancouver has a facility that you can play inside. Vancouver, Seattle, and Portland don't get that cold. People may forget. So I think the extreme heat in DC, Charlotte, Orlando, those are outdoor stadiums. At Dallas, those 4, Houston, that you can't keep going. Nashville, you can't keep going with that. So
Yeah.
I think the calendar change also makes sense from a weather standpoint, from a climate standpoint. I just mentioned I was in Montreal. I was in Canada for 11 days on some business, but I have never seen, and in my NESL days, I was in Montreal and Ottawa a lot. Because we had Ottawa in our league and we had Montreal the first 2 years in our league before they moved to MLS. I have never seen such extreme weather in Canada. It was hot. It was sticky. I had to drive in this horrible thunderstorm between Trois-Rivières and Montreal on a Sunday afternoon, which was just like our storms in Florida. So I think even in the summer, Montreal and Toronto aren't the greatest places. And I remember times in Minnesota that it wasn't great in the summer for us in NASL, where it got extremely hot. So, yeah, I think as we wrap up, I know we're about out of time. I think this is the right move.
Yeah, I really do. I think it's the right move as well. And I know Montreal will have the Olympic Stadium. Once those repairs are done with the refurbishment of the Olympic Stadium, I know they're going to transfer those games in there. But once again, with the internet, with the winter break that they're planning to have, I mean, it helps them not to be inside the Olympic Stadium only until probably, I would say, maybe beginning of February, depending on when they start to play games again. So we'll see what happens.
I've been to a soccer game in Stade Olympique. And I thought the sight lines were great for a big stadium. Yeah. It's not like an NFL stadium. It's actually much better than soccer. I saw AC Milan play the Impact there many years ago, and it was sight lines were great. It was not like watching a game in Giant Stadium. So I think it'll be okay for MLS.
I think so too. We'll see what happens, but obviously, this is one of those things where hopefully, look, like I said, let's hope that the changes do come, and this is the right changes. And the one thing is this: I think it's great that the owners in MLS, I would say definitely 8/10 of the owners, if you want to say 27 out of the 30, want this change. I think it goes to show you now that they're learning and they've understood, why can't we do what everyone else does? Why can't we make this move? Why can't we have this type of scheduling done? Because then now it feels like overall that if you make this move, this is permanent. Even Don Garber said it at his press conference before the All-Star game started in Austin at the Q2 Stadium. If they're going to make this move, they're not going to revert back. This is going to be a permanent move, and one where I applaud them. I applaud the league for not only discussing it, listening to the pros, and yes, there'll be some cons. There's always going to be cons in every conversation. But when you see the pros, and then when they're also getting the feedback from the fans, where they're saying, listen, why can't we be like everyone else? Why can't we? Why do we have to be like why do we have to follow like what the NFL does or what baseball does? Why do we always have to be on this type of calendar? Why do we have to go from the winter or into the spring into the winter when it should be the other way around? If they can do it there, we can do it here. And we'll just have to readjust certain things. And before I even go, I know I wrote this on Beyond the 90, Kartik, but let me just put it out here too. Obviously, if the change does officially happen, and it's going to happen after the World Cup next summer, my thought was this: start a short season from the end of February till the beginning of June. No playoffs. You only play 16 games in your own conference. No cross-conference games. You only play there's like 15 teams in each conference. So you play 16 games. One team you play twice.
You're right.
One home, one road.
Right.
No playoffs.
Nashville will play Atlanta twice.
Exactly. The Florida clubs will play against each other. Charlotte play Nashville or whoever. Atlanta plays Nashville. Charlotte plays DC.
Philly plays DC.
Yeah, Philly plays DC. The Ohio teams will play each other. Chicago will play probably Charlotte.
Will play Toronto.
Exactly.
Montreal.
Exactly. Yep. And New York versus New York and everything like that too.
I know Columbus fans tend to think of Toronto as their rival.
Mhm.
So they could play Toronto, maybe Cincinnati play someone else. Well, they figure it
Exactly.
out.
Whatever it is,
Yeah.
whatever. It doesn't matter. But anyway, as I was saying before, and then here's what else you do. For 1 year, you suspend the Open Cup. And in USL, you suspend the Jägermeister Cup for 1 year. For 1 year, and then even for MLS, you suspend Leagues Cup. Personally, you get rid of it. That's how I feel. But if they're going to keep it, blah 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 blah, they'll just suspend it. Then whoever wins, their places for the 2027 Champions Cup, those teams can still play those games. That represents MLS.
Yeah.
But then when you go for 2028, you take the points from that short season, then you take your break in the summer, then you start in August, and then whatever points you get from the first 3 to 4 months of the new season, you add it to those from the 2027 season, and then boom, whichever MLS teams gets, the Champions Cup spots, then that's where they go.
Yeah, that's logical. And then that's a good way of realigning everybody and still rewarding something and having a season.
Exactly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this will do it for tonight's show. Once again, for Kaylor Hodges, who, of course, left about half an hour ago. I appreciate his time from the Hammering Down podcast on Birmingham Legion. And, of course, my colleague, Kartik Krishnaiyer from Beyond the 90, joining me tonight. This has been a very wonderful show to talk about this. Absolutely spot on with everyone's analysis, their opinions on this subject. Once again, Pro-Rel will mean nothing unless we make the change to the international calendar. And even though there's still conversations going on in MLS HQ, hopefully they'll make the move. And USL, we're talking to you. Make the move as well.
Make the move.
Benefit the game for everybody. Benefit it for everybody. We cannot have it for one side only and none for the other. Either we all come together and it makes it all work and worthwhile. For Kaylor Hodges, who, of course, is no longer with us, Kartik Krishnaiyer, and myself, Daniel Feuerstein, thank you very much for watching us tonight. And as always, please, 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 please enjoy your football. Thank you. Take care. So long. Have a good night. And bye-bye for now. Good night, everybody.
Good night.